Hello YouTube, it is me Raina and I am back and I'm here to do my reviews of the Mighty Nein series of episode 4 and episode 5. Sorry I didn't post last week, I got a lot going on. So here we go. So episode 4 was a culmination of bringing the whole group together into fighting the big toad. And I am loving already the connections that these characters are making as pairs, with Knot and Jester, with Caleb and Bo, Ford, and Caleb had a little thing, talking about the school and all that stuff. And also keeping up with, Trent and Essex and what they're doing with the beacon and how it's supposed to work and how Trent sees it as a weapon. And I'm loving the constant back and forth in between the main party and the quote unquote villainous party. It really builds up the tension to eventually we know these two are going to meet and going to clash towards the end of the season, and I cannot wait to see that. It's a very new way of storytelling for Critical Role, and they kind of did this in Vox Machina, of where we would see the dragons and Delilah Briarwood discuss of it. It was kind of almost in snippets. We would see parts of their plan, but I'm liking this season so far of seeing the continuous plan of Trent and Essex, and seeing how the machinations of how they're working with the beacon and what they're really doing. And then we got the main party and them coming together, and I'm loving how they're using the magic. I love how different it looks and it feels. I'm loving the animation of how they have Caleb get his components together and does his fire magic. I love how they're showing Molly's, blood hunter magic, and Jester with her cleric stuff. I think it's so cute. And Ford with giving in to his warlock Patreon with the sword, and how that's going to possibly maybe affect them in the future. We don't know. And also them coming together of the unfortunate death of the young girl and how that changes them, to kind of bring them closer together. And, Bo opening up just a little bit, just a little tiny bit, because she's a hard one to crack, obviously, and everything. So I really love that for episode 4. Now, episode 5 is a whole other story. This is where we get into Caleb's backstory. And I was wondering how they were going to do this. And I'm glad that they dedicated a whole episode to it, because I know the campaign, so I'm not going to say any spoilers. But I know that Caleb is a very intrinsic character to the whole campaign, considering, that he is very connected to Trent, who used to be his teacher when he was younger, and manipulated him into killing his family. And I knew this story. I kind of knew how it unfolded, but to see it animated and to see from his humble beginnings to where he was basically mentally and physically abused by Trent, and seeing his relationship with Astrid and Etterwolf, if that's how you pronounce his name, how that came to be. I'm happy that they showcased that. That's a very important intrinsic relationship for Caleb, of showing that, polyamorous relationship that he had with both of them. And then the unfortunate killing of his whole family and pet. And that was a very, very great way of going back and forth between his past and his present, and how it forms his character as of right now. Bringing that halfling Volstrucker who's been following Bo and Caleb, how she fits into everything, how she was able to, manipulate the whole situation to have Bo really question Caleb, because Caleb has been cagey, and we understand the reasoning behind that. But, they're in a group kind of right now. They kind of have to, give and take and try to, understand each other, and it takes some time. And, that tension there was also in the campaign, and I'm happy to see that brought to light. And I'm really loving what they're doing with Knot. I'm not going to spoil Knot's character, but I'm liking the little, what should I say, Easter eggs droppings that they're doing with her character, and how she interacts with Ford and with Caleb, and with a child also last episode. That's all I'm going to say about that. I'm really loving that without giving too much away. they're doing a great job with Not. That's all I'll say. And also with Jester, with her healing magic, and how, once again, I'm loving how that's formed, and her and Molly having that conversation. I really love that. And so I just really love how they're bringing, how the slow burn is bringing this group closer together. And also the ending of the episode was just an emotional upheaval of seeing young Caleb, being so emotionally manipulated by that man into killing his family, and to seeing it now manifested of him growing up and all this stuff and killing the Volstrucker, and letting out his emotions that he really wants to let out and everything. And I think the way they've done this really makes me excited to see the other people's backstories that we haven't seen, and how they're going to inform them as characters in the present. So I'm very intrigued by that. Overall, so far this season has been really good. I'm loving this format. I think this format, in my opinion, has improved on the what do you call this universe? This Critical Role universe, I guess. I'm loving that we got 40 some odd minutes. And yes, it means a shorter season, only 8 episodes. But I feel like we've gotten a lot of information, a lot of character work, and a lot of seeds that are dropped in here and there for future seasons and future storylines that I know that are going to come up, that comes from the campaign. So yeah, I'm really excited, once again, for this season. Excited for the next episode. Leave your comments down below. What are your favorite moments? What did you think of episodes 4 and 5? And goodbye, YouTube.